Are you ready to welcome our next president, John Kasich? My name is Tom Leonard, and I currently serve as the Speaker Pro Tem in the House of Representatives, but most importantly for today's purposes, I serve as the statewide co-chair for Kasich for president. But before we get going, I would like to introduce Bishop Peter Beckwith, who's going to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance as well. So if everybody can please stand.
Thank you. Let us pray. Lord God, we thank you for this day, even as we thank you for life itself. We thank you for all your blessings. We thank you for living in a country where freedom reigns supreme in most minds. We would ask that every citizen would be a good steward of that blessing so that it could be passed on to generations in the future. We ask your continual blessing on your servant John. We thank you for his heart. We thank you for his vision. Continue to strengthen him as he continues in this very important campaign. Bless all those gathered here. Open our hearts and our minds to your truth so that our decision can support what you desire. And all this we ask in your most holy name. Amen. Gentlemen, please remove your hats and face the flag and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bishop. I have had several have asked me over the past several weeks, why is it, Tom, that you are supporting Governor Kasich for president? I have to tell you, I had no intention of getting involved in the presidential politics at all. I was going to wait for the primary to get over and just get behind in the general election, whoever our nominee was. And I had the opportunity to meet Governor Kasich a few months ago. And when I met him, I saw somebody, a man of faith. I saw somebody with a lot of convictions. I saw somebody who has completely turned a purple state around by creating 400,000 private sector jobs since he has become governor. Somebody who inherited an $8 billion budget deficit and has turned it into a $2 billion budget surplus. Somebody who has cut $5 billion in taxes. And most importantly, as I said, somebody that did all this in a purple state and has a 65% approval rating. For our party to win the White House this year, we have to win the state of Ohio. And I have no doubt that John Kasich will not only win Ohio for us, he will win states like Colorado, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, because he has shown that he can pull an independence and work across the aisle. Now, another quick funny story to go along with my endorsement of him. Before I officially gave him that nod, I told his camp, I said, before I do this, I said, my wife has to have an opportunity to meet him. And they said, okay. And a few months ago, he took us out to dinner on Mackinac Island during the Republican conference. And the first time he met her, he said, Tom, do all you young legislators get to marry supermodels? At that point, I knew I was locked in. But in all sincerity, today I was having lunch in Ithaca. I had to meet with a constituent, and the owner of the restaurant came in. And he sat with me, and he saw my little Kasich pin, and he said, "You're supporting John Kasich?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Oh, I got to tell you what, I don't know a lot about what's going on right now, but I watch Saturday's debate, and he seems to be the only one that wants to be the sincere adult in the room." And I will tell you, yes. And that's what we have with Governor Kasich, somebody who is going to lead, somebody who is going to win, and somebody who is going to be our next president, showing that you can do this with a positive message. So with that, I would like to introduce Congressman Pete Hoekstra. another hero of mine.
Thanks, Tom. And wow, what a great crowd. Thanks to all of you for showing up. And for those of us that have been involved in this in the past, it is so great to see all the young people here. You know, what happens in Lansing, what happens in Washington, we're actually designing your future. In 1992, I felt like many of you feel today. I was angry. I had a great career at Herman Miller, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, you know what? I'm going to run for Congress. And Diane said, go back to sleep and you'll feel better in the morning. But I didn't. I didn't feel any better in the morning, and I ran for Congress. I ran against a long-term incumbent. On election day, I won the primary, and I was on my way to Washington. And one of the first people that I met in Washington was John Kasich. You know, I made all these crazy promises. I said, you know, I'm going to go to Washington. You know, and when I look at all these young faces, I was saying to a friend of mine, none of these people were even born when I was first elected. But I made this crazy promise in I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to balance the budget. 2 years after I got to Washington, I had the opportunity to serve on the budget committee with John Kasich. He was the chairman. 3 years later, we balanced the budget because John led, and John led in a positive way. There were those in our party who looked at the '94 election and said, we're going to win and we're going to just cream the Democrats because of the things that they've been doing. And John said, that's not how we're going to win. The way that I want us to win is I'm going to present a budget to the American people. He'd been doing it, but he said, and the old bull said, John, don't do it. We're going to blow our opportunity the first time in 40 years to be the majority party. John said, no, I'm not going to win by talking other people down. I'm going to show to the American people what we as conservatives, what we as Republicans, what we as Americans stand for, so that they can go to the polls and they can vote for something positive, and we can go and make the future better. We balanced the budget, we reformed welfare, he helped cut taxes, we grew the economy, and America prospered because of the leadership of John Kasich. John, welcome to East Lansing.
So well. Congratulations. Okay, wait till next year. I can tell you. Thanks for coming. Do you have class today, or? Okay, and I want you to know that it's nice that you would all come here, but I'm not giving out free college. Okay? Here, and I know you'll have a lot of questions and maybe some tough ones, and that's fine. But I just want to take a few seconds and just say a couple things to you. I grew up in a little town, a little blue-collar town outside of Pittsburgh, and it was called the Keys Rocks. My father carried mail on his back, and his father was a coal miner. He had worked in the mine for many years, and when he would come up with the load that he had dug all day, they'd say, you got too much peat and not enough coal, and they'd cut his pay in half. And it wasn't fun, and he didn't enjoy that, obviously. And he ended up dying of black lung, and as he was getting older, he was losing his eyesight from being down in that mine. And my mother's mother was from Yugoslavia, could barely speak English. So the town that I grew up in, everybody there, basically all Democrats, blue-collar, God-fearing, show respect, simple, common sense, things are not that complicated in life. And if the wind blew the wrong way, people found themselves out of work. And it was a town where you just knew people didn't have much power. We were all Steeler fans, but we didn't get tickets for the Steelers game. Nobody knew anybody. And we were Pirates fans, and when we would go to the game, my father would take me on Labor Day. Why do you think we went on Labor Day? Tickets were like $1 a piece. Why do you think, who would tell me why I went on Labor Day? Thank you, double header. 2 for the price of 1. That's the way it was. And nobody in my town thought much of the politicians, to be honest with you. In fact, when I went to my high school reunion, when I got to be a congressman, one of the guys walked up to me and said, "John, I understand you're a congressman." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He looks at me and said, "I voted for you to be one of the most likely to succeed. What happened?" So anyway, I left that town keeping in mind that people like that usually didn't have a voice. Somebody had to give them one. You know, you don't need to be disliking the establishment, but you're never going to be part of it. And you don't want to be anti-establishment, because that doesn't get you anywhere. So, you know, bring about change all the time. So I went over to Ohio State, and how many students go to Michigan State? Is it, no, how many? Okay, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 5, oh no, 6, what is it, 40,000? How many? 48,000 on this campus, so very similar to my school. And I lived in a dormitory. I had 15 college roommates, and I was there a real short period of time, and I got frustrated because I don't like anything big. I don't like big labor, big business, big government, because it just traps me. I don't like people telling me what to do or putting their thumb on me. So I got upset, and I wasn't getting anywhere, so I asked for a meeting with the president of the university, and of course they wouldn't let me in. And I asked them about 10 times, and finally the lady said, "Come in tomorrow." So I put on my best blue jean shirt and put my hair up under my hat and went in to see the president. And I lodged my complaint, and I looked at him and I said, "Sir, I've been in school about a month, and I'm undecided here at Ohio State, but these rugs, the furniture, the lighting, wow, this is great. Maybe this is the job for me. What do you do in your job as president?" He said, "Well, you know, I do a little academic stuff and fundraising, and tomorrow I'm going to go down and have a meeting with President Nixon because I've been friendly with him over the years." And I said, "Well, sir, there's a number of things that I would like to talk to him about also. Do you think I could go with you?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, if I go back to my dorm, would you, and I write a letter, would you carry it to him?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I guess I could do that." Lesson number 1. Keep going until somebody tells you no, okay? So I went back and I wrote a letter to the president, basically inviting myself to the White House, and I signed it sincerely, John Kasich, P.S. If you would like to discuss this further, you know, I'm a college student and, you know, we got nothing but time, so let me know if I can come. So a couple of weeks later, I go down to my mailbox, and there's a letter from the White House, the office of the president. And I open it up, go upstairs, I call home, and my mother answers the phone. And I said, "Mom, I'm going to need an airline ticket. The President of the United States would like to have a meeting with me in the Oval Office." And my mother is shouting, "Honey, pick up the phone. There's something really wrong with Johnny." It's true. So they got me an airline ticket. I flew down. My parents didn't know what to make of any of this. And I go in through the White House security, and I'm an 18-year-old first-quarter freshman. And I'm sitting right outside the Oval Office, and this guy comes up to me, and he says, "You're going to get 5 minutes alone with the President of the United States." What do you think? Does that sound exciting to you? What do you think? Yeah, unbelievable. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. New jacket, new shirt, new tie, new pants. I didn't come here for 5 lousy minutes. And they opened up the door, and I walked in, and I greeted the president. He greeted me, and we sat at his desk. And the good news is I spent 20 minutes as a first-quarter freshman at the age of 18 with the President of the United States. 20 minutes in that Oval Office with him. The bad news, I spent 18 years in Congress, and if you add up all the time I spent in the Oval Office, I peaked out at the age of 18. That's a true story. What do you think? That story is about you. That story's really not about me. You understand what I mean? That's about you. That's about your life. That's about your hopes. That's about your dreams. That's about nobody ever telling you what you cannot do. Never, ever let somebody tell you what it is you cannot do, because it can create doubts. We've got one life, at least this time around, one life, and we got to go with the gusto. And I know we're here at this school, and I want to tell you a couple things. Let's just think about that story, because I don't understand it myself. So I bullied my way in because when people said, "You don't have the experience," you're going to hear that, right? Oh, really? Better let me in the door. Or "You can't do that," which you hear from those who love you the most. Am I right? You can't. Am I right about this? Huh? Why are you shaking your head? Did somebody tell you what you couldn't do? Huh? You know what? Who cares what they tell you? You do what you believe in. And get people around you who are going to be people who are going to encourage you and tell you what you can be, not what you cannot. Now I'm going to tell you another thing, and some of you won't like it. That's okay. But I'm going to give you the best present I can give you. I happen to believe that we were all of us, created special. I believe that the Lord, the ruler of the universe, made us special. I want you to think about this, because this is a gift. Some that never thought about this. And because you're made special for a purpose. You're not to obscure that purpose. You're not to become, go to the party and after the second and third drink we start taking OxyContin. No, that's not. You weren't made to do that. You were made to heal the world. And I don't care whether, it doesn't matter to me in the least whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a Martian. It means nothing to me. Because I don't care about that with you. What I care about with you is to realize that you were made special to change this world. And changing this world by healing this world. We all want to go show up at a thing like this and, oh, okay, this guy's running for president. By the way, before I went to New Hampshire, we could have had the meeting in a phone booth, okay? So that just tells you the way the world works. Don't take it too seriously. I'm all honored that you would come here. And by the way, I know I finished second in New Hampshire, but I did beat Donald Trump up in a little town in the northern part of New Hampshire. Dixville Notch by 60%. Don't tell anybody it was 3-2. That's a detail, okay? But I want to go back to this for a second because, you see, I think that we're all part of a mosaic. Isn't that a beautiful word, a mosaic? Because that's what I think we are. And we're here at a point in time to do something special. And we come here, like I was saying, that some guys running for president. You realize that this world is not going to spin differently, frankly, at the end, only because of a president. Can a president do things? Yeah, but I'm talking to you back in the Keys Rocks. Our hero was Roberto Clemente, the great baseball player. Yeah, we had presidents. President, yeah, okay, but what about Roberto? Is he playing tonight? Because he was the example of excellence where I came from. He was humble, he was talented, he played through injuries. And then one morning, my mother, the very few times I saw my mother cry, came into my bedroom and she said, "Johnny, today's a sad day. Roberto Clemente was killed in a plane crash trying to go and help earthquake victims in Managua, Nicaragua." You see, our country needs a revived spirit. We don't get the revived spirit only with the president. Can a president inspire? I guess, yes. I think that's true. Because I met, presidents when I was just a kid, and Reagan did inspire me. And I was in Ohio State when he showed up there one day, and it was like a mob scene. The students, they just couldn't get close enough to him, of all parties. Why? Because I think he just stood for something. He believed in an ideal that was significant. And our ideal as human beings ought to be to live a life a little bit greater than ourselves. So a couple tips. Never take never for an answer. Tell the people who don't support you that you're going to show them what you can do. Gather people around you who believe in you. But in whatever you're going to do in life, remember, you need to be part of changing the world and helping somebody else to get up, get them up on their feet. That's our job as human beings. And it will always be appreciated. You know, one of the greatest stories in the Scripture is the story of the Good Samaritan. Everybody else passed this guy laying in the street. He was probably nothing more than a homeless guy living here in Lansing, living under a bridge, pushing a goddamn shopping cart with all his earthly possessions in it. And somebody stopped and helped him. And the Good Samaritan has traveled all the way through time. All the way through time. Why? Living a life bigger than himself. We don't even know his name, but we know who he is, and we know what he did. And we have to think about that. As for me, in this business, I'm just sort of putting one foot in front of the other. I didn't think I was going to be running for president. I thought, you know, I kind of got my second term as governor, kind of finish it out, go into the private sector, and the next thing you know, I'm standing here in front of 600 people in East Lansing, okay? My job is to help you to find your purpose through the effort of work. If we don't work, we're made to work. All of us are. And you've got a lot of hopes and dreams about working, but I got to tell you, if there's no jobs, it's pretty hard to get a job. If the economy is anemic and poor, it isn't going to happen. And I've been involved. Look, I was in Washington. As Pete Hoekstra mentioned, I was there when we worked together, fought for many years to get ourselves to a balanced budget. Why? We care about numbers. But we all knew that if we could get some control of the spending, it would give the job creators an incentive to do something. And we not only balanced the budget, but we cut the risk-taking tax, the capital gains tax, and this economy was booming like crazy. We paid down 4 years, we had 4 straight years of a balanced budget and paid down $500 billion in the national debt, and it inspired confidence in people who either expand jobs or who create jobs, and it gave young people like you who are entrepreneurial. You know, you don't have to work for somebody else in your lifetime. Oh, it's not easy, but you don't have to work for it. You create your own stuff. But in an environment that is a killer of jobs, it simply doesn't work. And I'm not here to, you know, you'll never hear me really talk about any other candidate or any other philosophy. But what I can tell you is as government grows bigger, there's less opportunity for all of us, if you're like me, the son of a mailman, or the daughter of a mailman, you know, if you know what I mean by that. People that have to climb up the pole. And so there's a couple things we need to do in this country. We got to transfer a lot of power out of that town. Now, let me see if I can, yeah, give me that there. Give me that. Okay? Nice phone. 4 or 5? A 6! Why, you were even in school. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I mean, you got a 6. So here's the situation. See this? Well, when my kids were about 11 years old, we were in Naples, Florida. And my daughter said, "Daddy, what is that thing over there?" I said, well, "Oh, that box over there." Oh, I said, okay. Well, I said, "That's where Superman changed his clothes." And you know, there's even some young enough that don't even know how Superman changed his clothes. Do you know where he changed his clothes? Let me go to the old man. All right, where did he change his clothes?
Governor, I have no clue.
Tell it, yeah. In the phone booth. Thank you. In the phone booth. At this school. Boring things like physics and nothing about Superman. So I said, "Girls, that's where Superman changes his clothes, and that's where your mom and dad used to put coins in the phone booth there to make the phone work." And they're like, "Really?" It's fast, isn't it? To constantly connect the consumer, as a man once described to me years ago what it was going to be like. Transportation, I don't know if, you know, now we're really learning that if you live in an urban area, you don't need a car anymore. I noticed yesterday in the paper, I was reading about Ford and all their exciting new ways of looking at transportation, because it's changing. Medicine is changing. You know, and it's going to be all personalized medicine in the blink of an eye. You know, not just transportation, communication, shopping, everything. We're not going to have to go home to turn our lights on. We can do that now. Let's use a computer. It's just amazing what's happening. But there's one thing that doesn't change, and that is the big government. Now, I'm going to tell you, the big government doesn't change because there's many forces of special interests that say we like it just like it is. But that does not lead to innovation. You must innovate or you die. If you don't change and change quickly, you die. That's why Fortune 500 companies, you know, they're at the top of the ocean and next thing you know, they're dead at the bottom. If you don't change and innovate, it doesn't work. And by the way, I get more phones this way. Thank you very much. So what we need to do with the government is break it down into smaller pieces. And I'll give you an example of really what I'll talk about a couple things. Look at the VA. Do you realize how bad that operation is? And it's so big because it's so big. It's so bad because it's so big. It's not servicing the very people that put their lives on the line. You come back from the military, you got a physical illness, you call there, you're on hold for 45 minutes before, and then they still don't talk to you. Then they hang up the phone on you. It doesn't work that way. It's too big and unwieldy. Even inside of our Department of Defense, we have almost 800,000 people who perform bureaucratic functions. That's why some weapon systems have taken as long as 22 years to deploy when it used to take 6 or 7. It's so big. So we got to get government smaller. Doesn't mean no government. But if you want to fix education, if some of you are teachers, who's here in education? God bless you. Okay, in education, are you a teacher? Okay, you want to fix education? He's got to fix it with the school board. We got to fix welfare in the community to make sure people get help, but then they can help themselves. I mean, so much of this has to be fixed. And so I know how to get about the business of innovating the government, shrinking the government, transferring power to where we live so we can get our hands on it. But what I want to touch with you here is, in terms of changing the world, the spirit of our country is not run by big shots. The spirit of our country gets rekindled by you and what you do to take control in your neighborhood. What is happening in the schools is up to you. What's happening in stomping out the curse of drugs is up to you. The way in which we treat the poor in our neighborhoods is up to you. Some of you have grandmothers who were married for 50 years, 60 years. Your grandfather dies. Who takes her out to dinner? Who gets her to put on that new dress once every couple of weeks and feel like, wow, this is just great? Who's paying attention? Who's paying attention to the people you go to school with? You ever ask somebody, how you doing? And you actually want to know? Isn't that what puts us together? Isn't that what we hunger for, to be connected? Because, you know, really, whether we think about it or not, we are connected to one another. Whether we know it or not, it's true. And we have a deep longing to be connected to one another. So my job is running for president. I'll take care of the Social Security. We'll figure out what we're going to do about the student loans. We'll figure out what we're going to do to balance the budget. But I need you as my partners to change the world. One block at a time, one street at a time, one neighborhood at a time, and I think most important, one person at a time. Are you up to that? We want to think about that? Because they tell me that all of you want to believe in something better than just the bucks. You know, my kids went to school, well, they go to school with the brother of Tyler Joseph. And Tyler's the guy, of course, who's all stressed out in 21 Pilots, okay? And, you know, the message of that song is, I just don't want to go to work and make money. Well, you don't have to. If this generation has got to change this country and revive our spirit. I know you can do it. You just need a little direction, a little help. I'll try to break down the bureaucracy, and then you take control and drive us deep into the 21st century. Not for me, but for your children and your grandchildren. And that's how we'll shine up America, and we'll be great. We will be great as a you come on down here. If you get the number right in this puzzle, I'll give you a new car. No, I just, what is your question?
Thank you. So my question. Thank you. Hi. My question is: so how have you, throughout this campaign, tried to differentiate yourself in your campaign from either of the Democratic candidates or any of the Republican candidates? How have you tried to make yourself different and set yourself apart from everybody else?
Yeah. I never try to change anything about what I do. Do you try to change yourself compared to somebody else?
No, I just try to do my own thing.
Thank you. That's what we ought to do. And you know, what I'm really bothered about in this, you know, there's a couple things I'm very bothered about. I don't like billionaires deciding who should be president. I think the whole campaign finance system. And you know, the second thing is, look, when you go for a job interview, you don't go, and you're sitting there, there's 4 other people. I would advise you, first of all, they probably wouldn't be sitting there, but if they were, hypothetically, and you're going in there, you wouldn't go in there and say, look at these guys are pathetic. You wouldn't get the job. You would go in there and tell them what you're for. And this country now is so invested in negative campaigning. It's, you know what? In New Hampshire, I took millions and millions worth of negative ads. I'm not going to be a pincushion or a marshmallow, but I don't run any negative ads. I ran a positive campaign, and the whole national media is in shock. How can somebody win when they're running a positive campaign? You know what? If a positive campaign can't work, and I can't tell you what I'm about and what I'm for, and you can't distinguish it, I'll just go back to Ohio. How's that, instead of going to the dark side and running nothing but trash in somebody else? How about positive campaign? Without a net. You know, I left my teleprompter in my bus, and I've got a really cool bus. I mean, a really cool bus. And when I'm done with it, Pearl Jam's going to get it, but I'm not giving it to him easy. I'm not giving it to him easy. So that's what I do, sir. I just try to do the best I can, young man, and if people like it, great. And I think we're doing okay. Huh? I think we're doing okay.
Thank you so much for coming here. I'm an undecided independent voter, and from everything I've heard about you, I'm really excited about what you're talking about economically. So, as a good student, I did my research, and I know that in 2011, as governor of Ohio, you signed an executive order on anti-discrimination for state government employees. Among the named protected classes were race, gender, religion, and sexual orientation. As president, would you be willing to expand sexual orientation as a protected discrimination class so young people like me can seek jobs without fearing employment discrimination for who we are?
Well, I don't think you're discriminated against because you're young. I mean, what they're going to tell you is you don't have any. What are you taking in school? What's your major?
Music education major. I'm going to be a teacher.
Well, you're going to absolutely be able to get a job. Absolutely. Look, the problem that young people face is this. I mean, look, if I thought anybody was being discriminated against, I'd be willing to do whatever it takes. I don't believe in discrimination at any level. But I think you're not going to find this, I don't think, right? I mean, because you're going to be a teacher, and there's going to be room, and you're going to find your slot in what school district. The challenge is, you just remember this is coming. Well, we'd love to hire you, but you have no experience. That's what every graduate from college faces. So when they tell you that, make something up. No, don't do that. No, what I'm saying to you is you just can't take no for an answer. You're going to be fine. Music education, you're going to be just fine. But for others, when they tell you you don't have the experience, then that's where you got to say, well, let me tell you what I can do and push back, but pleasantly. Another thing I want to tell you before you get out of here, you have to bother grown-ups to help you. Listen to what I mean by that. You got to ask grown-ups to help you get in the door. Grown-ups love helping young people, but young people don't want to ever ask the grown-ups for help. They're like, oh, I'm shy, why would they want to help me? You have to ask. The networking is really important. I have no idea how I ever got to where I am, because I wasn't particularly a good networker, but I also had a lot of mentors. So get out of your comfort zone and start asking people. You know what, I'm going to give you a tip here. Right here. See this guy right here? What is your name? Donald. Donald, and your name is? Rachel. Rachel, come on over here and meet Donald, okay? What year are you? I'm a senior. See, there you go, Donald. Can you help this girl get a job? Well, how about, yeah, but you got to know these people. So, Donald, you can have exchange emails and talk. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's exactly. But in all seriousness, this is what I'm really talking about. Because if there's an opening in the school, he can crack the door open for you, go in and have an interview. If it works, great. If you don't, you get to the next school district and you say, okay, who do you know that's teaching somewhere else? This is the way it works, folks. It just is this simple, but this complicated. So, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm going to come. What do we got? What? Okay, yes, sir. Yes, yes. The Jack Black of Michigan State.
I'm Dr. Robert LeBuca, Associate Dean of the Lyman Briggs College of Science. Governor Kasich, you do have my vote for primary.
Wait, what are you, the dean of? I'd like to know.
Lyman Briggs College of Science.
Fantastic, good.
So as someone who's taken a lot of students as mentees in my research lab, trying to broaden participation to pursue science, what are your plans for broadening participation in STEM education for people who have been traditionally underrepresented in science?
Well, especially women. I don't know where we ever got this sense that you're a woman and you can't do science or engineering. It's ridiculous. So that attitude has got to change. And sir, first of all, I would say